This video is going to be a little bit different. If you didn't already know this, I run most of my channel through Notion. Everything from our content calendar and when videos come out, to my list of topics that I intend to cover, to our research, to our assignments, to our brands, to the sponsors, like everything about what makes a specific video, is managed through Notion. Normally, this isn't too big a deal. The most annoying thing about using Notion is that people keep telling me I should be using Obsidian instead. We'll get to that in a moment. I just got one of the biggest influxes of that comment I've ever had, because while I was filming today, Notion died. I couldn't see my topics, I couldn't get into the calendar, everything broke. And earlier today, before I even started stream, I couldn't get it to load, and I had to make Claude Code fix the broken auth state on my machine. So it seems pretty obvious, right? This note-taking tool, Notion, is super heavy, expensive. I'm spending $1,000 a year on Notion, by the way. Clearly, I should move off of this to something better, more open, and more standard that people love and is really good, like Obsidian or Apple Notes, right? Right? I'll just tell you what the order of events of this video is going to be. First, I'm going to tell you you're fucking stupid. Then we're going to take a quick break for an ad. Then I'm going to tell you in much more depth why those comments are so fucking stupid. Let's start with part 1. You're fucking stupid. Now let's do part 2. The ad. AI's made a lot of things better for engineers, but there's one that's made way, way worse. Hiring. That's why I recommend today's sponsor, G2I, to basically all of the companies that I help out with hiring. They just make it so much easier. They have a network of experienced engineers, not AI slop, but actual developers that have actual real-world working experience that they've already vetted and know are good. Most recruiting teams don't know anything about engineering. These guys do. I'm friends with a bunch of the team, have been for a while, and I go to all of their events. They run React Miami, which is my favorite tech conference ever, but they might one-up that with the next conference they're throwing, AI Engineer in Miami. So if you're in the area in April, or you can get your team to fly you out around that time, I highly, highly recommend it. These guys know how to throw conferences, and I promise you they'll be full of some of the best engineers you've ever hung out with. If you do want to hire some of them, it takes 7 days with G2I to go from interview to the first PR filed. I've seen this number hit enough times to know it's real, and if you don't believe me, try out their trial at soydev.link/G2I. Welcome back. Let's talk about why I'm wasting $1,000 a year on Notion. I need you guys to understand, first and foremost, how we are using Notion. There are a lot of pieces to how we do this. Most importantly is the relationship between my Kanban board for planning topics here, the calendar, and the additional relations we build with brands. See here, we have all of these links underneath each of the topics. That's because we have to put an ad in the video, and we manage all of that separately as a different table. Also notice I have stream and main and also board, which is how my editor manages where things are, because this whole thing is collaborative. We have 6 people in this Notion database. Yes, 6 of us. And we're all managing and editing it together constantly. In fact, FaZe is in my chat right now. He's my video editor, and we have a whole automation set up for him. Watch what happens when I drag this topic, stop telling me to use Obsidian, over to recorded. It will automatically get FaZe assigned to it. See that right there? I did nothing. Now this topic is owned by FaZe. Usually this means I've finished recording. It's a little annoying I haven't yet. But another set of the cool things it does, it auto sets the recording date as today. So when I upload these files later for my editor to grab, they'll be in the right labeled folder and topic for what he needs to have to go do his job. Literally every single thing I have mentioned so far would require me to write code and build my own platform around Obsidian. And God forbid you want to have the sync features. The fact that my team and I can all have the same page open the same time, and when something gets edited, changed, or moved, we all see the change, works great. It's essential for how we do our jobs. And there are other pieces here that are really nice, some of which actually work well in Obsidian too. Things like the very open body for every item. You can specify fields like release date, owner, channel, all of these types of things you would expect. You can trivially add new properties, but sometimes you need something a little more freeform. Like I want to dump some number of links or some notes on what I want to do. Some things do fit really well in these types of itemized properties, but some things don't. Like when I want to have a small to-do list or 3 thumbnail ideas or a list of links. And we have this body for all of those things. If I want to include, I don't know, a screenshot of everything crashing earlier, I'll just go to my Twitter profile, I'll copy the link or the image and paste it. And now I've embedded this image as part of the body of this doc that also still separately has all of these properties. This flexibility is awesome. It is very, very useful to us as we structure our very unstructured content. You can almost think of this as up here we have structure, and down here we have flexibility for everything else. So good, so useful. And then the relationship between all of this and the calendar makes it trivial to choose whatever field you want to map things to. If I want to make a different calendar here or a different view for the calendar, I don't know, let's make it so I have a calendar that instead of grouping things by when they're supposed to be published, we group by when they were recorded. Oh, look, that's what it defaulted to. And now you can see which videos were recorded on which days instead. And I can easily change this again to be whichever of these date fields I want it to be. I switch it to release dates, and now it's that view. I switch it to recording dates, and it's this view. It's so flexible in ways that are literally essential for doing our jobs and running our business. Believe me, this does not mean we do not have our problems with Notion. I have so many that I've already filmed many videos about them across my various YouTube channels. Things like the absurd auth problems and data loading issues I was just experiencing. That is absurd. I almost just had to end stream and stop filming for the day because of how buggy Notion is sometimes. And they had no logs of any major outage. They had some weird things about people joining your organization. It almost feels like Notion is built on top of quicksand, the way things just collapse sometimes. I legitimately think a big portion of why I'm having these issues right now is because just a few days ago, we upgraded to a higher tier of Notion because one of our new team members wanted to use the AI features, which is also why I'm now spending $1,000 a year on fucking Notion. But I should talk a little bit about Obsidian. If you're not familiar, Obsidian is a tool to make it way easier to write your markdown notes, index them, and organize them in a way that isn't just a bunch of files on your computer, but in the end, it is still just a bunch of files on your computer, so you own your data. That does sound really nice, especially when I'm in a situation like this one, where I can't access any of my data because it's down for some reason. And I see why people would instinctively recommend Obsidian as a local first alternative to something like Notion. The issue is that, on a fundamental level, you're just kind of fucking wrong. First and foremost, Obsidian, while letting you keep the files on your computer, it is not really open. There's this weird misconception that has gone way too far that Obsidian's an open source project. It is not at all. Obsidian's one person building an Electron app that is based on VS Code and a mobile app that apparently works okay now, but that is a big change from the past. And to the chatter that said everyone knew Obsidian was open source, I literally did a poll and over 70% of my audience didn't know it was closed source. In fact, I went viral on Twitter for the same thing. In March of last year, am I the only person who thought Obsidian was open source? 3.3 thousand likes. Wacko, legendary open source developer. It's not open source? Reese, regular community member, deep in the open source community. I thought I was too. What kind of Mandela effect is this? I totally thought it was open source. So yeah. And even in chat now, no way. Wait, what? I thought it was open source. That's crazy. So stop with the you already knew this bullshit. It's your fault that you didn't know this. No, literally nobody does, because Obsidian is presented by the same people that things like Tori and Rust are. They're not presenting these things because they actually think they solved the problem. They are only mentioning these things because it makes them feel higher than thou and cool. There are very few people who use Obsidian because it is the best solution to a problem. Most of them use it because it makes them feel cool and righteous. And this is a weird thing about me. Most of the solutions I use don't make me feel cool or righteous. They often don't even make me feel sane. The things I use often break in obnoxious, egregious ways. I find myself defending the popular solution far more often than I would like to. That's why I'm stuck with an iPhone. That's why I'm the React and Next.js guy. And that's also why I think Obsidian's a bit of a joke. Let me steelman a little bit, though. I don't want to just be rude because I have no ill will against the creator of Obsidian. I actually have a lot of respect for him and what he's doing and why he's doing it. His goal with Obsidian is that managing a bunch of markdown files is obnoxious, and he wanted a proper knowledge database, all of the information in his head, the things he did, the things he talks about. He wanted one place with all of it that was easy to organize, track, and link between things. They did a great job. That's why they have the graph built into Obsidian. Not just because it makes you feel cool to have your knowledge in a graph, but for many people that have lots of information, it's actually really valuable to be able to get through it, iterate on it, collect it, and explore it in these ways. Just because you write Markdown in these two programs does not mean they are competitive or similar in really any way at all. Another thing I've said about Obsidian in the past is that Obsidian is a great alternative to Apple Notes. If you think it's an alternative to Notion, you're using Notion wrong. And this is the harshest reality that I think a lot of y'all don't have internalized, Not saying y'all as in everyone watching. I'm specifying y'all as in the people who keep fucking mentioning Obsidian as though it will help me in any way, shape, or form. You're lonely. You just are. You're not doing these things with other people. Obsidian Sync barely works between my phone and my desktop app. Obsidian Sync does not work once you start bringing other people in. I've seen many people legitimately propose that if I did want to use Obsidian for my stuff, it's as simple as putting all my data on GitHub and have everybody managing the changes through making diffs and filing commits. That sounds great. Every time my editor wants to move a file from in progress to done or needs review, he has to open up a terminal, make Git commits, and then push that, and then remind the whole team to pull so they can see the latest state. That sounds fucking awesome. I'm sure my team of developers and non-developers would really love that. As Obsidian clearly says here, the free and flexible app for your private thoughts. So again, my best attempt to good faith this. If when you see me managing my entire content pipeline and channel through Notion, what you're seeing isn't a content pipeline that I'm collaborating on with my team. What you're instead seeing is a place that I am writing notes down. And that's all you think this is. This is how I personally keep my notes. I would encourage you get better at basic observation skills. But regardless of that, it's important to understand I am actually running this with my team. The only view I go through is here, where I drag a thing from ToStream to recorded. My team runs the rest. I am the only one who uses this view. Everyone else hops between the main calendar and the board for the different types of work that they are doing. And that type of flexibility combined with collaboration is magical. I did see a suggestion in chat I have to acknowledge. Feel free to berate me for this one. Why don't you just Ralph loop out a custom app? We have many times. And I probably will again in the future as well. That said, there is something to appreciate about the level of flexibility Notion gives us. Do I wish it was better? Absolutely. Do the weird quirks in calendar drive me mad? Like right now, I could scroll down forever, February, March, April, May, but if I scroll up, it hard locks at the end of last year, and I have to click the back button to go back further than that. I could scroll down infinitely, but I hard lock when I scroll up. Even funnier, the default view is for this month. So when I go here, I can't see the things I'm working on now. I have to scroll down to get to actually today. Also, the amount of content you get here is very, very small. I complained about this to them before, and they added word wrap so that the title could go to 2 lines instead of 1, and ended up breaking a ton of other shit, and I bullied them into reverting it because they broke the calendar entirely when they did that. It really does feel like a house of cards. But it's a house of cards that isn't my problem, that works surprisingly well for our stuff and has the exact level of flexibility, control, and ownership that we need. Are there millions of things I would change in Notion? Absolutely. Do I have any interest in trying an alternative? Fuck no. I have had multiple people reach out to me building custom versions of effectively our exact pipeline as product because either they saw these problems themselves and wanted it, or they studied my content pipeline because it is, believe it or not, one of the most efficient in the entire ecosystem. The fact that we're doing daily videos when I'm only working on content 2 days a week and have to run a business separately is unbelievable. And I'm so proud of my team and the things that we have built together to make that possible. Is Notion one of the most fragile pieces of that pipeline? Yeah. But in other ways, it is literally the whole pipeline. And I've seen lots of people think that this is a business opportunity, and in some ways it is. There was a tool I was really excited about that I forgot the name of that took everything we do about our content pipeline, did interviews with me and the team to try and build it into a real product, and then we never used it. We just stayed here. So yeah, I'm not using Notion for the AI shit. I'm not using Notion because they were YC. I have spent a shitload of money on Notion and I will never get a return from them. Did the sponsorship for that one thing go through or not? They may have sponsored one thing in the past. I don't actually remember the details if it went through or not. So maybe on that. Notion wasn't YC. I was so sure Notion was YC. Are they really not? Covito said, LTT and Mr. B seem to have great pipelines. Considering the fact that I've consulted with people on both of those teams to unfuck their pipelines, no, they don't. They're getting better, but I know too much. I won't say any more. All I will say is that there's a reason that both of those orgs have reached out to me to help them unfuck things. And I've never signed a thing with either, thankfully. Speaking of my team, I'm going to cite one of my favorite things that Mark ever did. Never just. It's never just that simple. Picture yourself wrestling with a complex problem. Maybe it's an elusive bug in a legacy codebase or a fragile system architecture held together by workarounds and technical debt. You've invested countless hours diving deep into the problem, meticulously mapping out dependencies and edge cases. Your mind is swimming with implementation details when someone casually drops in to say, "Why don't you just?" To the person offering, it feels insightful. They've cracked the code. They see an easy answer that has eluded you. But to you, it lands like a tiny linguistic hand grenade. Your problem isn't simple. It has layers, history, competing priorities, and constraints that aren't immediately obvious. You've likely spent considerable time exploring avenues, hitting roadblocks, and discarding seemingly straightforward solutions precisely because they don't account for the complex reality that you're navigating. When you say just, you're skipping over all the invisible complexity. You're assuming the problem is simple and that the person asking for help hasn't already considered the obvious. You're also assuming the person's asking for help, which they might not be. When I'm crashing out because Notion isn't processing my auth tokens properly, I'm not asking you to recommend an alternative to fucking Notion, especially if you don't know why I'm using Notion. Generally speaking, when you see someone struggling with a problem and your instinct is they should just use this instead, you're not putting the effort in. You're just not. And if your use of Notion could be replaced with Obsidian, cool, awesome, good for you. Your notes aren't that serious. You're not running your company through it, and I'm happy that that works for you. But for us, the only alternative to Notion would be building our own thing. Am I using it because I love it? No. Am I using it because I don't know about Obsidian? No. I'm using it because it solves our problems. And when you show up and say, why not just use Obsidian, you are answering a question I don't have with an answer that makes no sense, and in the process are outing your inability to do basic critical thinking or to remove your own perspective from a conversation. Theo getting one guide. Man, I genuinely wish. This happens hundreds of times, almost every single time I open Notion. I'm scared to slide over to the other side where everyone's going to be recommending Obsidian on YouTube chat because YouTube loves to recommend Obsidian. Oh, wow. Not that bad. Obsidian doesn't have a sync at all. Obsidian is brittle. It has a subscription sync. Not sure how good it is. I use a separate sync and it has issues. The problem is that Notion is purely online and you don't have any replicas if anything happens with it. With that said, probably not that common for them to have an outage. Yep, good summary. You can back up Notion. It has the ability to export, and it is just Markdown in the end. So you can do that. But the issue is just having the files does not solve my problem. The contents of how much electricity is wasted by vibe coding doesn't matter too much because it's 8 empty fields, a status of toStream, and then 3 links. And most of these things have very little to no context. Like the documents are not what's valuable. It's the relationship between them that is. And that is not so simply encoded with files on your computer. This requires infrastructure and systems and a team of people maintaining it as a product. And when you tell me to just use something else, you're both presuming you know better than me about how I and my team work, and also that I haven't looked into other options and understand why they don't work. So please, for the love of fucking God, stop asking me why I don't just use Obsidian. And with that, I think we can wrap. But what about Apple Notes? But what about Google Keep? I'm going to die. I'm going to end this one before I get put on a list. Thank you as always, and until next time, please stop telling me about Obsidian. I seriously just could not care less.